Hey, Space Watchers, and welcome back from the 40th Space Symposium here in Colorado Springs. It's day number 3. We are full in the swing of the conference, and now I have the great honor to talk with a good old friend. A good friend, not old, but a good friend. We spoke last year about her company and what she was about to do, and she is Tuana Yazıcı, the CEO of the Tuana Group and Aero AI Global Solutions. But we also talk today about her work as the chair of the IISL working group on legal aspects of AI in space and her 2 other publications on AI regulation in space. What a mouthful. Tuana, welcome. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine. I mean, it's Space Symposium, and the great news are coming in, and that's wonderful to hear in these difficult times. Let's talk about your talk that you gave here at the symposium. So what was this topic about? Maybe you can guide us a bit.
Right, so as Torsten mentioned, the discussion was mainly about the legal aspects of AI in space and how we can take actionable steps to actually take a balanced approach to both regulation without actually hindering innovation. And we did this during the space law track. And I initially discussed as a chair of the International Institute of Space Law Working Group on the legal aspects of AI in space. And yes, that's a handful of words as a title. We published our recent report called Balancing Innovation and Responsibility, International Recommendations for AI Regulation in Space. And we actually finished this 267-page report in 6 months, and we presented at the IAC in Milan. We got great feedback from government officials, industry leaders, and also academics. And then we honed in our actionable steps, and we came up with very specific short and long-term actionable steps for all of our recommendations. And the scope of the study is, I mean, you name it. It's international laws, soft law, regulations like GDPR, procurement, telecommunications, space traffic management, everyone's favorite topic, and air and maritime laws. So we had an ethics studies, of course. So we did a very comprehensive approach to this study, and we're hoping that the next steps are to actually go into the implementation stage of these steps that we point out.
Let's do it one step at a time. So can we unfold a bit what is in this study? I mean, 260 pages is a lot, and I'm not asking if you use AI to produce it, so that's not fair. But what is in? Maybe you can give us some highlights on that.
Right, so for example, as I mentioned, like those are the scope of the study, so those are each sections within the study, and we analyze like the current issues that are important now and in a very near future for each of those topics, and then we give those recommendations. For example, I'll give one example with STM. So we have a
space traffic management.
Space traffic management. We have we offered, for example, a decentralized and a centralized approach to space traffic management. I won't get into too much details about the recommendations because you can take a look at our report, and we have even though it's 267 pages, we have an executive summary that's only 10, so it's very doable, and it only highlights the actionable steps. And I just want to point out that during our talk, I also discussed our 2 newly published reports, my papers, and I delve into more high-resolution imagery, which is an interesting topic because when I say high-resolution imagery and licensing, everyone's radars start going off, and they're like, no more licensing requirements, please. But we're at a certain stage with high-resolution imagery plus AI capabilities, which then result in either on-board or off-board analysis through like biometric analysis and behavioral analysis. That's kind of unregulated at this moment. And especially, I propose this for non-military satellites, for the commercial sector. But the very important thing is the licensing requirement that I discussed there, it would only be after a certain threshold is surpassed in detection. For example, when you can identify people and like vehicles, that's when that regulation would start. And it's very important that the private sector is in on that discussion so that the regulations aren't made and then the companies just have to follow.
So we talk 30 centimeters and below.
Right, and with more companies venturing into VLEO,
Oh, yeah, no,
so that's
absolutely.
that's when it starts to become even more of an issue with the non-regulation of these technologies. So, the licensing requirement would be similar to a warrant, like there would be certain like auto blurring of like facial requirements, and also then you would have to apply to unblur these technologies and to basically apply like a warrant. You say the scope of it, your purpose of doing this, and the duration.
Help me a bit to understand why these papers, why this work is important today. I mean, there's an academic approach.
Of course.
And then there's sometimes a gap between the academic
Very
world
true.
and the business reality, as we know. So
Very
why
true.
is that important?
So the academics get a bad rep sometimes about with
No,
the
that's not a
academic
bad
papers.
It's another approach, but it's totally fair, and we need it, absolutely.
We get feedback a lot because I say bad rep in terms of like, in looking just like at a textbook, we say, okay, these look like great recommendations, but then, like you said, in reality, those are not very realistic recommendations, right? So that's what I kind of mean by that, like bad rep with unrealistic expectations, right?
Fair
But
point.
that's why we actually interviewed a lot of like, government officials with different like countries and different perspectives so that we can actually make it realistic because, we understand the responsibility that we have as well to ensure that these can be implemented in a proper way. And I say this, the importance of this is, I highlight the urgency of this topic in this sense. It's urgent that we get in the right mindset to then take the first steps towards standardization with these sorts of topics.
I see.
And I say that because we're right now in the honeymoon phase with these technologies, right? So at this point, it's easier to take the first steps to set a groundwork for these technologies.
Fair
But
point.
if we wait until, we kick the can down the road and we wait until our backs are against the wall and we're in a corner trying to, take steps in the last minute, then we can't really do meaningful regulations. So another publication of mine is about how to use those sorts of technologies as evidence in courts to bring that in, like high-resolution imagery, radar, radio frequency, AI, and use that as admissible evidence in courts. And this is especially important for industry because then that would enhance like government contracts, and government can have more use of these technologies that companies bring to the table.
I see.
So,
The IISL study, who is it aiming for? Who should read that? I mean, besides the 10 pages of executive summary, but who should go into the weeds? Is it just for lawyers, or is it for normal people, non-lawyers?
great question, actually. So our executive summary, it's tailored to industry folks, government folks who want to just look at the highlights of the study. And I know academics love to dig in and see how we get to those conclusions. So the academics, of course, can dig more into the study. And, folks who see, have interest in certain topics and want to go look at it and look at our analysis and how we got to those points. Because we always look at multiple perspectives. Actually, a great thing about our study is that no single person wrote a full section. So it's always multiple viewpoints. Yeah.
Okay. What comes next?
What comes next? So we've already presented to ESOC, and like I mentioned, to Milan as well at the IAC. And we also present to the ITU team, and we will...
ESOC, the European Satellite Operations Center.
Right. Thank you for clarifying that. But, and then in May, I will also be giving this talk at the UN Legal Subcommittee so that we can actually start making this, these applications and just move forward.
Great. Thank you very much for coming along and give us an update on the study and what is in. Tuana, I wish you a wonderful day, remaining symposium. And with that, SpaceWatch out.